warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am AYUNDA MUTIARA as the first speaker of the proposition team. I stand here today. I firmly believe with this motion that this House prefers a world where critical resources are governed by the International Materials Agency. We firmly believe that the world will be significantly safer, fairer, and more stable if the critical resources were governed by an International Material Agency. Before I get into my arguments, let me give you the definitions. First, the critical resources. Critical resources refer to the strategically essential materials that modern civilization depends on. For example, lithium, cobalt, nickel, oil, copper, uranium, and many more. These resources are essentials for survival, and its loss or disruptions causes immediate severe negative impacts. The second is govern. We define govern as regulated, supervised, coordinated, and managed under international rules. By here, we talk about the IMA or International Material Agency, and it does not necessarily mean it fully owned or directly controlled or taken away from countries. The third is International Material Agency. We define it as the hypothetical independent international institutions similar to the International Atomic Energy Agency or the International Energy Agency. IMA is responsible for first, monitoring extractions and trade, second, preventing monopolization, third, ensuring fair global access, and fourth, coordinating the emergency reserves during crisis. The IMA does not fully nationalize resource. Countries still have or own their natural resources domestically, but the agency only governs international coordinations and strategic distribution. So, under the definition, countries still mine their own resources, companies still operate, but the IMA sets global frameworks and oversight the mechanism. For example, IMA does the monitor supply chains, prevent monopolies, coordinate emergency reserves, and regulate export restrictions, and ensure fair access during shortage. So, before I get into my argument, let me give you the limitations or scope. This debate only concerns about the global governance or strategic materials, supply chains management, and international security, economic stability, and sustainability. And this debate does not concern about abolishing state or state sovereignty, communism, or confiscating national assets. So, back to my argument. Based on the status quo, critical resource governance is dangerously fragmented. Now, a few countries dominate refining and processing geopolitical rivalries, weaponize the supply chains. So, actually, a lot of countries do the threaten to another country if they are not following their political movements, because they are having the power to stop the industrial or the company because they have the natural resource that the other countries needs for economic survival. This means the single geopolitical conflict can collapse the entire industry. The first to my argument is the IMA prevents geopolitical blackmail and economical warfare. Critical resources are no longer merely economic commodities, they are instruments of power. The IAA reports that the top 3 of the refining countries control around 86% of processing for major critical materials, and China dominates refining for many of them. This actually happens because of the issue of the World War, the issue between the Israel, America, Iran, and China. They are showing off their power by threatening they will close the export, they will uplift the price, and they are showing off their power. For example, export bars, tariffs, and stockpiling, as I say. And IMA, by using the concept of IMA, we create transparency, coordinate reserves, and legally binding cooperation mechanism. This reduces the ability of any one nation hold the global economy hostage. Resource dependence create coercive diplomacy, and countries without access to mineral are forced to unequal political compromises simply to maintain industrial survival. That means in the status quo, economic sovereignty becomes impossible for the weaker states. The IMA breaks the coercive structure. Instead of resource nationalism, we create resource interdependence, where stability becomes mutual beneficial. This is the same logic behind why institutions governing nuclear agency reduce catastrophic conflicts risk after the World War II. Second, the IMA reduces human rights abuse and resource exploitation. As you know that a lot of mining actually in a critical condition, in the horrific condition because of the first child labor, unsafe mining, and environmental destruction. And this happens a lot in a lot of countries in Africa, even in Indonesia. Status quo say that cheap extractions at any cost. They didn't care about the safe, about the pain, about the environment. They only care about the cheap extraction. IMA creates the international auditing, labor protections, and sustainability standards. The opposition may say the international agencies are inefficient, but inefficiency is preferable to instability and resource wars. They may also say that states are lose sovereignty, but in reality, they are already loose when monopolies and geopolitical coercions dominates the supply chains. So everyone, today I stand here as the first speaker of the proposition team. I firmly believe that this House prefers a world where critical resource and governed by the International Material Agency, because we've done a lot of horrible things. We think that one nations are holding the power, so we fear them. But by this concept, we erase all of that. Thank you so much for that. And that's all of my argument. Thank you so much.